Hey guys, Coach here. How you doing? Hey, welcome to this week's show. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me today. Hey, this week we're talking about designing your landscape, not only for now, but also for the future. We're going to do a little futuristic thinking on paper this week, and I'm glad you're here. I hope you learned something. This week I'm taking you to the drawing board, figuratively, and discussing landscape design and how to apply it to your needs now and well into the future, so your investment stretches that much longer. Hey, it's time to roll, so let's get going. Hey, I'm Matt. You can call me Coach. Every Friday I bring with me landscape DIY education, concepts and theories, ideas and solutions, so you guys can go out and tackle a landscape project yourself, get professional results, save a whole lot of money in the process, and in this day and age, be a lot more self-reliant. Man, after a 20-plus year career in the green industry, I'm bringing with me a lot of knowledge and experience that I want to share with you guys, the new, modern, educated, self-reliant homeowner of today. You know, in the time that I've been here on Earth, I have seen from photos and actual, vocational experience, a multitude of changes in landscape styles and trends over the last 5 decades or so. From the uber simplistic, bare bones, foundation planting lawn and a single tree to nowadays the elaborate, modernized, literally electronic automated mega yards that have all the technologies, bells and whistles built into it. Professional landscape designers, in my experience and what I have seen, originate in a multitude of ways. Number one, they kind of accidentally stumble into it. They literally don't know which vocational career they're going into, and they just kind of, it just kind of makes them happy, and they fall into it, and it takes a little traction, and they get going. Number two is they find a passion for it early on, like in the teens, and develop it through formal education in community and state colleges, and even beyond, where they go all the way to landscape architecture. The other one is fake it until you make it, and the trial and error method that I have seen. Not the most reliable, but I have seen many contractors that think they're landscape designers, and their heart's in the right place, but the left side of their brain is not. And many times, contractors can jump in on a project and they can make even the most ill-placed planting material and infrastructure look good when it's brand new. It's just 3 and 5 years down the road where you see it and you just kind of go, what the were they thinking? And lastly, many designers kind of let their creative minds guide them and only design for their personal use. They don't branch out into the professional world, and they don't start taking their creativity to the public forum and actually making a living at it. For me, Coach, I had a blend of about 2.5 years of formal education at the college level. I had formal education at the vocational level, which I've spoken to you about many times in my early on nursery ornamental horticulture career, and a little bit of the trial and error method on personal space. And at the time, I was a whopping 19 years old, still living under Mom's roof. Thank you, Mom. And that's where I started experimenting with toss-outs from the nursery and stuff, and I could actually start re-landscaping the folks' house a little bit. And then gaining confidence and experience, and led to branching out into the professional world. Started at age 20, where I was designing people's yards for Navale's Nursery in the San Francisco Bay Area, and then eventually doing it on my own as a sideline. So there you go. Professional designing is a talent mixed with learned experience and, in some cases, natural creativity and knowledge of the ornamental plant world. Let's face it, if you don't have some type of a head wrap around what plants are going to do, not just when you put them in the ground, but what are they going to do a year, 3 and 5 years down the road? Yeah, it helps if you really have a little bit of ornamental hort behind you in order to move forward. Now, landscape designing and designers have been around for hundreds of years. I mean, if you look at some of the old castles and grounds of queens and kings and everything over the millennia, we've been around for a while. I mean, one famous one of the 1800s, was Fred Olmsted, who designed from natural scratch New York Central Park. Now that is quite a design, quite a huge long-term design. He also is credited for designing out the Biltmore Estate in Asheville, North Carolina, which is a huge 200 acres worth of forest and ornamental grounds. I mean, can you imagine that size of scale? So, wow, kudos to him. On a much smaller scale, residential landscape design for the DIYer can be as simple to as complicated as you want to make it. But as I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago, you must first understand a couple of things. When you take on landscape designing for yourself and you're considering a project, we design to what your budget is. Or if you're going to phase it out over 5 years, you're still going to have to understand designing for 2021 and then 2025 or 26. The cost of things are going to be much, much different. It's going to be very hard to judge what your budget might be in your final phase of your landscape makeover. And then also, you have to match that design to the budget you're strongly considering. If you don't, oftentimes disappointment, failure, and a real financial shortfall tends to creep into a project. It really does. And I've seen that on a lot of occasions. I really have. Many homeowners who tackle the landscape design themselves sell themselves short in what we call the design phase. They really often do not research enough and get in the car and go recon enough into materials and plant types to pull off a cohesive landscape design that will serve them now, whatever their situation is, and then what is it going to be 3 and 5 and 10 years down the road. That's where designing really has to entrench itself in your brain, that you're thinking about what is in front of you today, but you have to plan for down the road. You know, what you guys do at 30 years old as new homeowners, you're not going to be in that same phase of life at 40 and 45 and 50 and beyond. You may not even be in the house that you're currently listening to this in. So think about that. You have to think futuristically. So, how much future do you need to think of when designing your own landscape? You know, it was something I was taught to when I was dealing with clients. I used to always ask questions. I'd ask a question and then shut up and listen. And there was probably a half a dozen questions that I asked of my clients. And it really started off with determining the length of stay at the current location. If they bought a brand new house, maybe it was their very first house, or maybe it was their third house. It didn't really matter. But depending on what their answer was as far as longevity there, kind of let me guide and coach and direct a little bit. You know, there would be one party that wanted, God, Taj Mahal, I want $80,000 worth of landscape work done here. And the other person would go, you realize we're gone and we have to be relocated, you know, to Nebraska in 3 years to take over the regional manager job. And I would say, you know, somewhere in the middle is where reasonableness lies. Throwing $85,000 at a small residential lot is great, but are you going to recoup any of that investment? Are you going to have that flagship of the neighborhood when you throw the sign in the yard saying for sale, and what percentage or how much are you going to get back out of that $85,000 investment? And usually, much to my business checkbooks chagrin, we would probably chop that in half or even 2/3 in order to give them functionality, niceties in their yard. And then when they sold, it was that middle of the road, perfect move-up house for the next buyer to come in. And they didn't have huge debt or second mortgages or anything else that go along with it. So designing it to your longevity and designing it to your budget is extremely important. So ask yourself, say you're going to sit down this weekend and you're going to start thinking about what you want to do next spring. Do you see yourself there less than 5 years? Or maybe more than 10 years? Do you have a growing family, pets, active lifestyle with kids and weekend travels, entertaining lifestyles where you have a whole bunch of people over on a regular basis? Maybe your work calls for mega global travel in order to accomplish your job, and little home time. All of these factors come to bear very importantly when designing a useful, functional landscape, and one that will serve you well currently and also serve you when selling time arrives. It can be daunting. It really can. Some people are very right-brained. They don't have that creativity in the left side that much. But it's okay, because if you research stuff online, you go to some of your local pros, you do a few scratch copies of yard sketches, you can generally land quite a bit of information on that piece of paper for you and make it understandable, not only for yourself, but for others as well. You know, using a few scratch copies completed, say you sat down on a Saturday morning, you measured everything out in the backyard or front yard, you have good scale in mind, which we'll cover here in just a second. So accuracy is there. Maybe you make a run or two to the nursery for visual encouragement and actual hands-on look at some plants that are out there. Maybe a drive through your neighborhoods for ideas and things that you're attracted to and what you're not attracted to. You can boil it all down to a feasible, workable, and realistic roadmap on paper for your eventual landscape project that might be just around the corner. Do you need a computer program to accomplish a landscape design? Certainly not. I have seen many people create a nice, functional, aesthetically pleasing landscape on an 8x11 printer paper. That can suffice just well, as long as you've done it accurately, you've done it to scale, you've done it in pencil. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to be fancy with this. You just have to understand what you've put on paper, and what is on paper represents an accurate representation of what your project is going to look like in the end. Even though it's only two-dimensional top view drawing, it will still be perfectly fine. You know, you can go out and spend a few bucks. You can go out and find large-scale format, gridded, generally 1/4-inch grid, vellum drawing paper at your local printer supply, or maybe online on Amazon or something. Or you can go down to some of the office stores like Staples or Office Max or something, and in their printing department, you can say, hey, how much does it cost for a 24x36 piece of paper? And they'll tell you, and get 3 or 4 copies. So now you've got a couple of scratch copies and then a finished copy. And you can do it on a grander scale, maybe more, maybe a 1/4-inch, maybe even 1/2-inch scale, depending on the size of property you're trying to redo. And then you can blow it up into larger things, larger picture, shall we say. And then with a simple couple of tools, you could probably spend less than $35 at the most on a template, a couple of pencils, an engineer ruler, and that's about it. And maybe a tape measure, a large tape measure for your actual measuring of your yard and your dwelling. Gaining an understanding of scale is important, and learning this will be easy for some and a struggle for others. If you want a really good, and I'm serious about this for a second, a really good and simplistic education, you might consider helping coach out just a little bit and investing in my ebook or digital course. It's always at youryardcoach.com. That's the website. There you can find the easy to read and very expanded version of what I'm talking to you about today. It's an A to Z. It really is. It's an A to Z on how to landscape your own property yourself. The ebook covers in depth what you need to know, and the course goes 10 times beyond that if you're considering even a change of career. It's that detailed. Here I teach the basics, and you will learn and will have the ability without question to confidently put your landscape project to paper and take it all the way to fruition and completion. An inexpensive triangle ruler will be needed. It's called an engineer ruler. And if you look at that, it's really super simple, and you can YouTube those things. You will have an understanding of the engineer ruler in less than 10 minutes. Most residential yards will only require, depending on the size of your yard, 1/4 inch scale, maybe 3/16, or maybe 1/8 inch. If you're getting into larger properties, 1/8 inch might be more feasible. But the average smaller lots, 1/4 inch you can generally get by with. Most people don't do a front yard and a backyard, but if you do, you might have to go to 3/16 scale. And you will understand what I speak about when you get the ruler and you watch a YouTube video or two, or buy the book. Taking a front yard and backyard and reducing it to a piece of paper and yet legible, accurate, and functional starts with scale. You really understand it. You can take a whole backyard and reduce it to a small piece of paper, and yet at the end, if you understand that scale, you'll be okay. Some of the scales you see out there is 1/4 inch, 3/16 inch, 1/8 inch, 1/2 inch, and all of those equal a foot. In reality, you've just shrunk it down. Don't forget, when you do put plants in there, those plants represent mature size and not first planted size. Starting with accurate measurements of a project area, complete with photos, is a good starting place. It does not have to be super neat, but you can have notes which you will convert to your scaled design later, so that not only do you have a good picture or sketch, but you also have notes there, and basically the notes are instructions to yourself or instructions to people, professionals that you might be bringing into, that says, this is what this drawing represents, and these are some of the highlights of the things that will be done in this project. Designer notes. Measure the dwelling area in the project area if there is one. Determine a compass direction on your design so everybody knows which area of the yard this is in. When you walk out into the backyard, many of you will have an existing landscape. And in your design, in your mind, you will need to eliminate what you're taking out. That will not be on your design. And then what you're replacing it with, that will be in your design. So demolition is not in the finished design. New stuff will always be in the design. So you basically have bushes out, trees out, old patio out, old irrigation out, new fence in, new bushes in, new patio layout, new drainage, new irrigation, patio covers, lighting, walkways, veggie garden, dog run, sheds, chicken coop, second garage, and the list goes on and on. Depending on what though, ladies and gents? Depending on what? Your budget, and what does your future hold for this particular place? Designing a $100,000 landscape for only being there 3 years does not make a lot of financial good fiscal sense to me. Maybe if you are in a very fancy, upscale, developed neighborhood that requires such an investment to keep up with the Joneses down the street, okay, if you make that much money every year, you're probably not going to do it yourself. You're probably going to hire it out. So if you can afford that kind of financial extravagance, hey, that's all on you. But for the rest of the world, for the rest of the Smiths and Joneses and coaches out there, I think we'll just stick to a smaller scale improvement. Now, if your stay in this home you are currently in is your forever home, and a lot of long-range needs will be met, then that is a whole other ballgame indeed. Plus, if you are the tip of your own spear and doing it yourself, then I really encourage a master plan roadmap on paper that will guide you through the phases of the landscape development that you're about to embark on. It's so much easier when you have had the hours at the table, drawing everything out, researching, looking at your computer, going to the nursery, going to the box stores, going to the specialty shops, and you have a very good understanding in your brain of what is going to be needed. It just bolsters your confidence tremendously. And on launch day of phase 1, you know exactly what the hell you're going to be doing and why you're doing it. You're not just going out there with a chainsaw and an axe. You have a purpose and you have a schedule, and all of this stuff stems from your design that you created. This way, doing it this way, always end up with a completed, professional-looking, cohesive design, and not a weekend warrior look that is really usually kind of short-sighted and underdeveloped. It's someone who's not in the know that took it on, and they ended up with a, okay, it's done, but it's not the, holy crap, you did that yourself? Where in the hell did you learn how to do that? Well, maybe listening to me a little bit, maybe talking, and reading the book, maybe doing the course, maybe spending an extra 10 hours of recon work out there in the world and finding out this, that, and the other thing. That's how things turn out better. The master plan can also be used, if done correctly, in gaining estimates should you seek professional help in certain aspects of the project. For me, as a landscape professional for many years, the one thing I always used to bring in subcontractors for was concrete work. Now, I could form up with the best of everyone, but I hated finishing concrete. I was okay at it, but I wasn't really at the zenith of professional concrete finishing. And I always expected, whatever I turned to a customer, or they had to pay for, I wanted it to be good. So concrete work was something I always subbed out, and my designs were always what I submitted to a couple of concrete contractors that I had on staff, and it always worked out well. Other things that you can do is, like if you are doing underground electrical work, or maybe gas lines, or maybe square feet for hydro seeding large lawn area. Maybe you're going to have a shop built somewhere so you can put an extra car or whatever, or you got a workshop, a man cave, whatever. All stems from that scaled, accurate design. One thing I've really learned over the years, as we progress through time, as homeowners, we meet up with new demands, new needs, and new wants as we get older. We want from a landscape at 30 years old, but that is going to change a little or a lot by the time we're in our 50s and 60 years of age. Maybe we want small landscapes to maintain when we're young, and we want something larger when we get older because now we have more time. Or it could be vice versa. Maybe you've got all this energy at age 30 and you want a big yard and multi-acres to take care of, and by the time you're 65, hey, you've mowed enough lawn for 5 families and it's time to downsize. Everybody will have the ability to customize their design to meet their own individual needs for themselves and their family, not only now, but well into the future. For some, this designing thing is a blast. I still enjoy putting a design together for folks, and others will struggle with that left brain creative thing. Perfect for a DIYer but it's not crucial. The only thing you really is crucial is accuracy. Accuracy is important, research is important, but not perfection. Don't expect perfection the first time you're doing this. If you want perfection, hey, hire an educated pro. But just be prepared to pay them anywhere from $400 to $4,000 for their perfection, okay? That's the trade-off. So, for this particular episode, let's sum up what we've talked about. You can design your own landscape. You really can. There's not a doubt in my mind. Design for the now and the later, always in mind of the future when you put something down on paper. Remember your accuracy to scale. If your lot is 70 feet wide, make sure your design reflects that scale. Research. Do some nursery visits, do some box store visits, and kind of get your head around how much this stuff is going to cost, what your investment is going to be, and let your design reflect that type of research. All this comes back to designing around your budget and allow room for long-term changes in the current landscape if you're going to be there quite a while, and the landscape infrastructure. The first phase 1 can always start to take care of phase 2 and phase 3. Maybe you're not putting in advanced electrical right now. Maybe you're not putting in a shop right now, but you're going to need electrical to it. So in phase 1, you're doing some underground work that's going to prepare it for later on down the road. That way you don't have to rip stuff out. You just have to connect stuff up to existing things that are ready to go for you. A few simple tools, very minimal investment is really all that is needed. Paper to the size that you need it, a couple of good pencils, simple landscape template like the Barrel, B-E-R-O-L, Barrel landscape template is really all you need. You could do a compass if you want to do larger scale stuff for trees and stuff, and the all-important scale engineer ruler. Hey guys, there's a little glimpse, a small little glimpse at what DIY landscape design really entails. It's something that I'm so confident with a little bit of time and a little bit of study, you guys can accomplish this and save a heck of a lot of dollars, of which you can invest into your own landscape project. Hey, I will catch you guys next week, every Friday as usual. If you'd like to check me out over on Wisdom, I will be there live this weekend. I'll put out a little ad to tell you which day it is, but I'm kind of guessing it's going to be Saturday afternoon. So check me out on Wisdom right there at Yard Coach. Thanks for your time as always. Hey, take care. I will see you guys next week to your landscape success. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Yard Coach podcast. Don't forget to head over to the website at youryardcoach.com, where you will find more DIY landscape education, including the free 15-step DIY landscape checklist, Coach Matt's ebook called Landscaping Simplified, and the flagship digital course, HOMESCAPE 1.0. As always, if you have any questions or comments, you can email Coach Matt directly at youryardcoach@gmail.com. We'll see you right here next week.